They said the dollar would never change, that its strength came from paper, policy, and the promise of trust. But in a world where money now moves at the speed of light, paper has become weight and trust, a variable written in code. For decades, the US dollar ruled global trade through tradition, not technology. It was the currency of oil, debt, and diplomacy. But beneath that dominance, the financial grid was aging, settlement lagged, liquidity froze in transit. And as digital economies accelerated, the old system began to crack. Then came the stablecoin revolution, an attempt to digitize the dollar without breaking it. USDT and USDC emerged, not from governments but from private companies with servers instead of vaults. For the first time, the world saw a version of the dollar that lived entirely on ledgers, programmable and borderless. It was the spark that proved a bigger truth. The next dollar would not be printed, it would be coded. Ripple saw this shift before most. While regulators fought crypto in the open, Ripple built infrastructure in the background, enterprise rails, bank partnerships, and the world's most battle-tested bridge asset, XRP. But even the fastest bridge needs something to carry. The world didn't just need liquidity. It needed a stable, compliant, and trusted digital dollar to flow across the rails. Enter RLUSD, Ripple's answer to the question every central bank and payment giant had been asking. What if the future of money looked like the dollar, but behaved like the internet? RLUSD was not built for speculation. It was built for utility. Designed to integrate directly into RippleNet, XRP ledger, and regulated corridors, RLUSD would become the fuel for instant, enterprise-grade settlement. Where XRP moved value across networks, RLUSD anchored it within them, stable, auditable, and regulatory first. For Ripple, this was never about creating another stablecoin. It was about completing the system they started. XRP, the bridge asset, connects currencies. RLUSD, the digital dollar, empowers them. Together, they form a dual asset model. Speed and stability combined, liquidity and trust unified. The timing was no accident. After years of legal battles and public scrutiny, Ripple emerged with what few crypto companies could claim: regulatory clarity. In that clarity, Ripple found opportunity. The markets had proven there was demand for stable digital dollars, but none had yet achieved institutional trust. RLUSD was designed to fill that vacuum. Transparent, fully backed, and seamlessly interoperable with XRP and tokenized assets. This wasn't a rebellion against the financial system. It was an upgrade to it. Ripple wasn't trying to replace banks. It was giving them rails fast enough to survive the digital era. RLUSD would be the on-ramp for regulated finance, the compliant counterpart to crypto liquidity, and perhaps the most strategic digital asset ever designed for adoption at scale. The era of paper-backed power is ending. The age of code-backed trust has begun. And at the heart of it stands Ripple, not as a rebel, but as an architect, building the bridge between what money was and what it must become. This is the story of RLUSD, Ripple's dollar stablecoin, the digital fuel for the next financial system. Part 1. The birth of RLUSD. Every revolution begins with a quiet decision, an insight that the old system can no longer keep up with the new rhythm of the world. For Ripple, that moment came not in a boardroom or a courtroom, but in the silence after victory. The SEC case had dragged the company through years of uncertainty. Headlines painted Ripple as both villain and visionary. Markets waited, regulators watched. And then with one ruling, the fog lifted. XRP was declared what it had always been, a digital asset built for utility, not a security sold on promises. The verdict didn't just clear Ripple, it cleared its path. Freed from legal gravity, Ripple could finally build the system it had been designing in fragments for over a decade. Liquidity rails were ready. Partnerships were in place. The world had caught up to their vision. All that was missing was a digital dollar, a counterpart to XRP that could operate inside regulation while connecting to the open world of tokenized value. They called it RLUSD, the R for Ripple, the L for liquidity. Together with USD, it symbolized a bridge between the regulated and the decentralized, an institutional-grade stablecoin designed not for hype, but for flow. Unlike the chaotic origins of most crypto assets, RLUSD's birth was deliberate. It wasn't mined, launched, or airdropped. It was engineered. Ripple approached the project with the precision of a payment network, not the bravado of a startup. Every decision, reserve custody, audit standards, on-ledger integration, was mapped to the single goal of trust. The announcement stunned both Wall Street and the crypto world. Some saw competition for Tether and Circle. Others saw something far more strategic, the completion of Ripple's two-engine design. XRP would remain the neutral bridge, moving liquidity between currencies. RLUSD would serve as the anchor, the digital representation of stability itself. Behind the scenes, Ripple's engineers adapted the XRP ledger to host RLUSD natively. The asset would be redeemable 1.1 with US dollars, backed by regulated reserves and verified through transparent attestations. But its true power wasn't just stability, it was placement. RLUSD would live where institutions already trusted RippleNet, ready to settle instantly across corridors once limited by fiat friction. Inside Ripple's offices, the mood was less celebration, more calculation. They understood what they were building wasn't just a stablecoin, it was the template for enterprise digital money. Each design choice anticipated the questions central banks would ask, the compliance standards auditors would demand, and the liquidity thresholds global corporations would require. The timing couldn't have been better. Around the world, nations were experimenting with digital currencies. CBDC pilots were growing, but interoperability remained their Achilles heel. Ripple saw the gap. Governments could issue digital value, but they still needed a rail that could carry it anywhere. RLUSD was that connector, a US denominated token capable of operating inside those systems while remaining liquid on open networks. To the public, it looked like a product launch. To insiders, it was a statement of intent. Ripple would not wait for Washington to define the next dollar. They would build it themselves, compliant, auditable, scalable. The markets reacted instantly. Exchanges lined up for listings, banks and RippleNet corridors asked for pilots, and liquidity providers saw an opportunity to pair RLUSD with XRP and real-time settlement pools. For the first time, the vision of a complete digital financial ecosystem, bridge plus base currency, looked tangible. Critics asked the obvious question, why create another dollar when the world already had so many? Ripple's answer was simple. Because none of them work where it matters most, in enterprise-grade cross-border value transfer. RLUSD was born not from speculation but from necessity. The old dollar ruled trade through inertia. The new dollar would rule through interoperability. And as the first tokens moved across test corridors in silence, engineers watched settlement times collapse to near zero. The future of liquidity had just found its stable foundation. This was the moment Ripple transformed from disruptor to architect, not tearing the system down but rebuilding it with better code. Part 2. The technology behind RLUSD money has always been a story of trust, told in the language of technology. From gold coins to paper notes, from plastic cards to digital wallets. Each era upgraded how we believed in value, but RLUSD wasn't created to tell a new story. It was designed to translate the old one into code. At its core, RLUSD is a fully reserved digital representation of the US dollar, minted and redeemed through Ripple's institutional-grade infrastructure. Each token mirrors a real dollar held in regulated financial institutions, cash, short-term treasuries, or equivalent high-quality assets. Every issuance is backed, audited, and verifiable. No algorithmic risk, no fractional leverage, no smoke behind the mirrors, just pure one-to-one backing. But what sets RLUSD apart isn't what it holds, it's how it moves. Instead of running on a single proprietary blockchain, RLUSD lives across ecosystems. Its home is the XRP ledger, Ripple's ultra-fast, carbon-neutral blockchain built for settlement, not speculation. But integration doesn't stop there. RLUSD can extend into Ethereum, sidechains, and private institutional ledgers through RippleNet's interoperability layer. That layer, Ripple's hidden masterpiece MAO, acts like a translator between financial languages. Through ISO 2022 compliance, RLUSD can communicate with banks, payment processors, and CBDC networks using the same global standard already being adopted by SWIFT and central banks worldwide. In simple terms, it can move from blockchain to bank database without friction, the true realization of the Internet of Value. Speed is another cornerstone. Transactions on the XRP ledger finalize in 3 to 5 seconds, consuming a fraction of the energy required by proof-of-work systems like Bitcoin or even Ethereum. RLUSD's earlier iterations. RLUSD inherits that efficiency, giving institutions instant settlement with cryptographic certainty. The Ledger AS consensus protocol, a federated agreement model, replaces mining with validation by trusted participants. It's not proof of work, it's proof of integrity. Every validator agrees on the order and outcome of transactions without competition, enabling finality instead of probability. Security wasn't an afterthought. RLUSD employs multi-signature issuance, meaning no single party can mint or redeem tokens alone. Auditors and custodians form a digital checks and balances framework, ensuring transparency from day one. Ripple even designed programmable audit trails that regulators can verify in real time, a radical form of visibility that makes RLUSD more transparent than traditional banking ledgers. Then there's scalability. The XRP ledger can handle over 1,500 transactions per second, rivaling Visa's throughput and vastly exceeding the performance of most public blockchains. As global adoption grows, RLUSD's network load can expand horizontally across Ripple's institutional cloud, an architecture capable of serving both retail payments and billion-dollar enterprise settlements on the same rails. But the real genius lies in pairing RLUSD with XRP. While XRP remains the bridge asset connecting currencies, RLUSD functions as the anchor, the stable store of value that institutional participants can settle into. In practice, this means a bank can convert yen to XRP, bridge to RLUSD, and finalize in dollars in seconds. Liquidity becomes fluid, not locked. Money becomes motion, not storage. And with every transaction, a tiny amount of XRP is burned as a network fee, ensuring scarcity and sustainability within the ecosystem. Ripple effectively engineered a symbiotic system. One asset for movement, one for stability. Together, they form a dual-asset engine capable of powering global finance. Beyond payments, RLUSD's technical design opens the door to tokenization. Real estate, stocks, commodities, and even CBDCs can use RLUSD as a settlement pair. Its integration with Ripple's upcoming automated market maker, AMM, functions ensures deep liquidity and fair pricing across tokenized assets, creating a decentralized yet compliant financial marketplace. Where other stablecoins chase yield, RLUSD chases infrastructure. Where others rely on speculation, it relies on standards. This isn't DeFi chaos, it's digital discipline. Every design choice, every piece of code, every line of logic inside RLUSD carries a single message to the financial world. You can trust the system because you can see it. With that foundation, Ripple had done what few dared attempt: merge Wall Street stability with blockchain transparency. But technology alone doesn't create adoption. The next challenge was convincing the world to use it. And that story begins where all revolutions meet resistance, in the market itself. Part 3. Adoption and impact. Technology may build the system, but trust decides who uses it. For Ripple, RLUSD wasn't meant to compete with the dollar, it was meant to complete it. When the stablecoin was unveiled, the reaction was instant. Exchanges rushed to integrate it. Banks inside RippleNet corridors requested trials. Payment firms saw it as the missing link between regulated finance and the open blockchain world. After years of speculation and false starts from other issuers, a stablecoin finally existed that could speak the language of banks while moving at the speed of crypto. Ripple's network already spanned more than 50 countries, hundreds of financial institutions and corridors connecting the Americas, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. These weren't anonymous DeFi users. They were real enterprises, banks, payment processors, and remittance companies moving billions daily. When RLUSD entered that grid, it didn't need to find users. It simply plugged into them. The early pilots revealed something striking: a transaction that once required pre-funded accounts, intermediary banks, and layers of reconciliation could now clear in under 5 seconds, using XRP for bridge liquidity and RLUSD as the settlement currency. The cost? Less than a fraction of a cent. The savings? Measured in millions across corridors that once leaked value through friction. In Latin America, regional banks used RLUSD to send corporate payments into the US in real time. In Asia, e-commerce platforms adopted it for supplier settlements, reducing foreign exchange risk overnight. And in Africa, remittance providers found they could connect to global liquidity without holding volatile crypto directly. RLUSD acted as their digital dollar lifeline. Regulators watched closely. This wasn't the speculative stablecoin market they feared. It was compliance-first innovation. Every transaction produced a verifiable record. Every reserve audit published on schedule. Governments that once distrusted crypto began to view Ripple's model as a potential blueprint for their own digital currency ambitions. Even central banks, long skeptical of private issuers, recognized RLUSD's structure as an interoperability layer, a neutral dollar that could connect CBDCs globally without surrendering sovereignty. Meanwhile, the traditional stablecoin giants took notice. USDT and USDC still dominated retail trading, but RLUSD moved in a different world, the enterprise trenches where reliability mattered more than hype. Its architecture invited institutions to settle directly into blockchain rails without exposure to volatility. The result, a quiet migration of corporate liquidity into Ripple's orbit. Media outlets began calling it the professional stablecoin. Financial analysts described it as the first bridge between stable fiat and institutional blockchain adoption. And for Ripple, that was exactly the point, to make crypto invisible. Not a buzzword, not an experiment, but the plumbing of finance, humming silently beneath every transaction. Beyond payments, RLUSD's role in tokenization became pivotal, as real-world assets, from real estate to carbon credits, began to move on-chain. Each needed a settlement pair denominated in something stable, compliant, and globally recognized. RLUSD filled that void. Tokenized bonds on RippleNet used it to clear across borders. Commodity trade settled in seconds instead of days. Even early-stage governments experimenting with tokenized treasuries leaned on RLUSD for dollar-denominated liquidity. For Ripple's clients, the shift was less about crypto adoption and more about operational evolution. What email did to letters, RLUSD was doing to money, collapsing time, distance, and intermediaries. By 2026, industry reports estimated billions of dollars worth of RLUSD moved through RippleNet corridors monthly. While consumer awareness lagged, institutions quietly built infrastructure around it, a sign of genuine adoption, not speculative hype. For once, crypto wasn't promising a future world. It was running the current one. Yet even as adoption accelerated, questions persisted. Would RLUSD remain a bridge or become the standard itself? Could Ripple balance transparency with privacy, scale with control, innovation with regulation? Those questions mattered, and because Ripple wasn't alone. A new race was forming between traditional stablecoins, central banks, and tech giants, each with their own vision of digital money. And if RLUSD wanted to remain the global backbone of liquidity, it would have to face that competition head-on. The era of innovation was over. The era of alignment and control was about to begin. Part 4, Risks and Competition. Every innovation comes with a shadow. And in the world of digital money, the brighter the promise, the darker the risk. RLUSD entered the market with the credibility of Ripple's decade-long track record. But credibility alone couldn't protect it from what was coming. The stablecoin arena had already become one of the most crowded and controversial battlegrounds in finance. At the retail level, USDT and USDC ruled supreme. Their liquidity baked into every major exchange, their volumes measured in trillions. To some, they looked untouchable. To others, fragile. Neither was born from compliance-first architecture. Both had histories of opacity, mismanaged reserves, and sudden regulatory scrutiny. They were functional but flawed, and their flaws created the opening RLUSD needed. Yet Ripple's challenge wasn't just to prove better, it was to prove trustworthy. Governments now viewed stablecoins as potential systemic risks. One collapse, they warned, could ripple through the entire financial system. Ironically, Ripple had built its reputation on solving that very problem, reducing risk through transparency and speed. But being the good actor in a suspicious industry wasn't easy. Regulators demanded perfection, not promises. Ripple responded by designing RLUSD like a digital fortress, fully backed, independently audited, and natively compliant with AML and KYC frameworks. But those same strengths introduced a new tension, one that lived at the intersection of freedom and oversight. If every RLUSD token was traceable, what happened to privacy? If every corridor was regulated, what happened to decentralization? And if Ripple worked too closely with banks and governments, would crypto purists abandon it altogether? Inside the community, debates erupted. Was RLUSD a bridge between worlds, or the beginning of a corporate-controlled internet of value? Ripple didn't flinch. Their goal wasn't to please both sides, it was to make both sides compatible. Still, competition wasn't slowing down. Circle announced plans to expand USDC to every major chain. PayPal entered the race with its own stablecoin, backed by billions in corporate reach. Even JP Morgan was experimenting with tokenized dollars through Onyx, while central banks accelerated their CBDC pilots. The difference was philosophy. Others saw stablecoins as products, tools for customers. Ripple saw RLUSD as infrastructure, the connective tissue of a new monetary system. That vision kept it relevant but also exposed it to higher stakes. If RLUSD failed, it wouldn't just be a company setback. It would be a symbolic blow to the entire argument for institutional blockchain adoption. And then came the regulatory wave. The US, Europe, and Asia began drafting global stablecoin frameworks, defining what trust looked like in the age of programmable money. Ripple welcomed it, even contributed to it, but legislation moves slowly and markets move fast. Competitors exploited every delay, every rumor, every hesitation. Some exchanges hesitated to list RLUSD until the rules were clearer. Others demanded direct government approval. Meanwhile, public sentiment began to split. Some hailed RLUSD as the safe evolution of the dollar. Others feared it was the perfect tool for programmable control, a coin that could be paused, frozen, or taxed at the code level. Ripple called it compliance. Critics called it conditional money. And somewhere in between, truth blurred into perception. But Ripple understood something the others didn't. Adoption was about trust at scale. By anchoring RLUSD to audited reserves and open reporting, Ripple positioned it as the institutional answer to every regulator's nightmare. When competitors promised innovation, Ripple promised stability. Even so, risk wasn't just external. Technology evolves faster than policy, and faster still than public trust. A vulnerability in smart contract code, a compromised oracle, or a cross-chain bridge exploit could shake confidence overnight. Ripple's engineers knew that even one failure could undo years of credibility. And then there was the looming threat of central bank digital currencies, state-backed versions of RLUSD's very concept. If the US or other major economies launched digital dollars of their own, where would that leave a private stablecoin? Ripple's answer was strategic alignment, not competition. They positioned RLUSD as the connective layer, a compliant, interoperable bridge between CBDCs, banks, and open networks. In this model, Ripple wouldn't fight the governments, it would power them. It was a risky balance, being private enough to innovate, public enough to comply, and neutral enough to connect both. The line between collaboration and control grew thinner with every corridor that went live. In finance, the riskiest place to stand is between the old world and the new one. And that's exactly where Ripple chose to build.
Part 5. The Future of RLUSD. The world stands at the edge of a financial rewrite. Cash is fading, code is ascending,
And the rails of money are converging faster than anyone predicted. In that convergence, RLUSD has emerged as both symbol and system, a living experiment in what the next dollar can be. The question is no longer whether digital dollars will exist. It's whose version the world will use. Ripple's vision remains bold yet pragmatic, a future where liquidity is global but regulation is local, and RLUSD acts as the connective tissue between both. The asset's design, transparent, compliant, and fast, makes it an ideal settlement instrument for the coming era of tokenized everything. From trade finance to carbon markets, from real estate to streaming micropayments, every tokenized asset still needs one thing: a stable, auditable dollar to anchor its value. Ripple believes RLUSD will be that anchor. In the short term, Ripple's roadmap is clear. Expand RLUSD issuance across major jurisdictions. Integrate it natively into RippleNet corridors already powered by XRP. And most importantly, ensure interoperability with the emerging wave of CBDCs. Because the future of money won't be one currency or one blockchain, it will be a network of networks. RLUSD's architecture, built to comply with ISO 2022 and multi-ledger communication standards, allows it to operate inside this coming web of digital finance. It can interact with a European digital euro, settle against an Asian CBDC, or serve as liquidity for tokenized assets on private ledgers. It isn't competing with central banks. It's linking them. That interoperability gives RLUSD something no other stablecoin has achieved: relevance beyond crypto. It can move through banking systems, payment networks, and blockchain ecosystems alike, a universal digital translator for value. But Ripple knows every breakthrough walks hand in hand with risk. To remain trusted, RLUSD must maintain unbroken transparency, monthly audits, verifiable reserves, and real-time attestations. One misstep, one hidden weakness, and the entire foundation could erode overnight. That's why Ripple continues to design RLUSD as infrastructure first, brand second, a product meant to disappear into the background, quietly running the world's digital liquidity. If XRP is the bridge, RLUSD is the water flowing across it. One connects, the other fuels. Together they create a dual-asset ecosystem, built not for speculation but for utility. The very vision Ripple began with over a decade ago. The long arc of this story stretches toward a world without friction, where settlement is instant and global commerce moves at the speed of thought. But the deeper truth is more philosophical. RLUSD isn't just about payments. It's about trust in a world where code replaces institutions and value becomes information. Some predict Ripple's ecosystem will form the backbone of a new financial internet, an invisible network moving money, data, and identity across borders. Others warn that such centralization of efficiency comes at a cost: the quiet consolidation of control through standards. Ripple insists the opposite, that transparency is the safeguard, and decentralization doesn't mean anarchy. It means alignment through open rails. Still, the question lingers. When every transaction flows through a shared digital system, does efficiency guarantee freedom or merely redefine it? That tension defines the future Ripple is stepping into, one foot in the corporate world, the other in cryptographic innovation. A company that began as an outsider, now shaping the very structure of mainstream finance. If successful, RLUSD could become the backbone of global on-chain liquidity, a foundation for tokenized assets, digital currencies, and cross-border trade. If it fails, it will still be remembered as the blueprint that brought clarity and credibility to the digital dollar revolution. History rarely rewards the first to move fast. It rewards the first to move correctly. And in that balance, right between speed and trust, innovation and regulation, freedom and order, Ripple stands, holding the key to a system built not to replace the dollar, but to upgrade it. The next era of money won't be minted. It will be synchronized. And its pulse may sound a lot like this. LUSD. Two assets, one vision, the rails are built, the bridge is alive. And for the first time in history, the dollar itself can move at the speed of information. What began as an experiment in digital liquidity has become a global infrastructure. One asset bridging value across the world, another anchoring it in stability. XRP and RLUSD. Motion and trust. Speed and certainty, two halves of the same design, crafted for a financial system that never sleeps. Ripple's mission was never rebellion, it was connection. To make money move the way ideas already do, instantly, transparently, everywhere. RLUSD is that vision made real, the proof that the future of money isn't about replacing the system. It's about rewriting it. Because in the end, the goal was never decentralization for its own sake. It was efficiency with accountability. Freedom with guardrails, value with vision. This is RLUSD, Ripple's dollar stablecoin, a new chapter in the Internet of Value. Stay aware, stay free, stay tuned. Subscribe to LTL Productions, where every story moves value.